Hello, I'm Bob Weir with the Cross Timbers Gazette. My guest today is Texas State Representative Tan Parker. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for being here.
Thank you, Bob, for the opportunity.
I'd like to begin by saying that earlier this year you were elected chairman of the House Republican Caucus. Could you please explain to your constituents what that means?
Absolutely. Well, it was, first of all, just an incredible honor and privilege to have been elected by my fellow 97 Republicans in the House to serve in this capacity. I'm really principally responsible for our Republican policy initiatives. So I do my very best to quarterback all the major initiatives to get as many of them accomplished as possible for the people of Texas, be it working obviously on budget matters, border security, E-Verify, pasture protection this last session, advancing the pro-life cause with various pieces of legislation. You name it, all those various things I try to work within the caucus to make certain that we accomplish as many of our objectives as possible during the session. And then I provide services to the membership as well to make certain that they're able to communicate effectively back home with their own constituents and try to provide value to the members whenever we possibly can.
And so as the caucus chair, it gives you more influence to do these things, I suppose.
No question. It's a tremendous honor to have the ability to influence what we're doing and to work with the members in that regard. Absolutely.
Okay, recently you stated that human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the state. Can you tell us what measures are being used to stop it?
Yeah, look, this topic of human trafficking is what I'm very passionate about. I think all Texans are when they learn what's taking place. It's really a modern form of slavery. And the reality is that this session, in addition to focusing on border security and putting another $840 million into border security and adding another 250 DPS officers, we put in place a framework to specifically crack down on human trafficking, to make certain that these baby girls, these innocent little girls, are not swept into a lifetime of this horrific criminal activity that destroys their lives. And so what we're trying to do is apprehend them, these individuals that would put these little girls in this kind of slavery at the beginning of the process as opposed to years down the road. And we're trying to do everything we can to be aggressive in stopping these types of abductions and ultimately, if you will, transitions into this form of modern slavery as best we possibly can.
Are the people involved in human trafficking generally the same people involved in the drug trade?
No question about it. They are absolutely the same folks. These cartels, in many ways, now have transitioned from the narcotics trade to focusing on trading these baby girls in this form of modern slavery for the core principal reason that it's financially more lucrative. When they get someone successfully into the human trafficking trade, it pays over the course of months and years, as opposed to a one-time transaction for narcotics. And so no question it's the same folks, and that's why we need to absolutely do everything in our power to continue to aggressively make certain that we end once and for all this horrible tragedy here in Texas.
And on the same issue, what is being done with border security?
Well, just as a moment ago I mentioned, border security was a major topic this session. So when we were in session during this 84th legislature, from January, if you will, until June 1st, outside of the budget debate, the border security debate was probably the biggest one that we had. And we really focused on putting together a more comprehensive framework, if you will, for border security. We put in place another $840 million of funding, 250 additional DPS officers, along with new technology and capabilities to be able to go after, if you will, this problem. And so, in many ways, what we saw just a year ago with this incredible ramp up in the number of unaccompanied minors coming across our border, it was really a decoy for those that would engage in illicit criminal activity, that we really saw a ramp up, if you will, in all of that narcotics trade and other type of violent activity. And so what was happening is U.S. Border Patrol and DPS were involved in processing, if you will, of these children coming across, while all this additional crime and activity was occurring. So we are, as a state, doing our very best to secure the problem. I'm not going to say that we've solved it completely. It would be impossible, frankly, to ever fully, I think, resolve the problem. And certainly we need Washington to step up and help us. Our congressman here locally, Congressman Burgess, agrees with this 100% and is very passionate on this topic. The problem is the current administration in Washington that really has turned a blind eye and a deaf ear with regard to the importance of border security. but I'm very proud about what we're doing here in Texas to address the challenges that we face as a border state.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. Many people have been extolling the virtues of the recent budget passed by the Texas House and Senate. Can you tell us what some of the highlights of it are? And I suppose what people are most interested in the tax cuts. So.
Absolutely. No, Bob, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. So first of all, on the topic of the budget, I'm very proud of what we accomplished, and two individuals in particular deserve great praise for their efforts. One, Senator Jane Nelson did an extraordinary job chairing finance in the Senate, and then my good friend and colleague as well, John Otto, who was the chairman of appropriations in the House. The two of them and their teams, so to speak, the committees, worked very, very well to put in place a comprehensive budget that honors our commitments and priorities, but at the same time is very fiscally disciplined. We grew less than 2%, if you will, per year in this budget, which in my mind is the measure of a conservative budget. We were below the constitutional spending cap, and we also grew at a rate less than the inflation and population increase, which again I think is extraordinary. But what we did with that is we also had the chance to honor our major commitments. We put another $1.5 billion into public education, K through 12. Nothing more important than obviously making certain we've got a workforce that is world class and our children can be competitive in a global economy. Then we put another $1.5 billion into higher education as well, to make certain that our institutions of higher learning continue to be the best in the country, if not the best in the world, was obviously our objective. And then beyond that, I'm very proud of the fact that we, of course, provided $4 billion in tax relief to the people of Texas. That $4 billion is quite extraordinary, and it was really split in two buckets. One bucket was that we provided a 25% across-the-board reduction in the franchise tax, if you will, which was an amazing, I think, accomplishment. It'll help spark economic activity. It'll allow small and mid-sized businesses as well as larger businesses to be able to keep those dollars within the company to grow jobs and to continue to grow their businesses, which I think is great for Texas. The other bucket was specifically to help homeowners. So we increased the homestead exemption from $15,000 for every homeowner to now being $25,000. So those were major accomplishments of this budget. And then lastly, in addition to those items, we also left roughly $11 billion in our state savings account, or what we call the rainy day fund. So when you look at it in totality, I feel very, very good about the great work that we did collectively as a legislative body on the budget this year.
Well, that's great. A $4 billion tax cut, and well, you maintain the services. I think that's quite a feat.
Absolutely.
On another subject, last week you returned from another trip to the Ukraine. In what ways can Texas benefit from an economic partnership with the former Soviet bloc nation?
Well, Bob, thank you for the question. There are numerous ways I think where Texas can benefit. I mean, Ukraine is an extraordinary country with amazing natural resources. It's basically a piece of dirt the size of Texas with twice the population. Almost 50 million people in the Ukraine, just to kind of give you some perspective. But you have amazing natural resources there. You have great leadership with regard to the fields of aerospace and any kind of space flight and so forth. A lot of the great military and technical minds of the former Soviet Union were in fact in the Kharkiv region of the Ukraine. So there are huge opportunities for collaboration in that area. Of course, the Ukraine is also known for a lot of its advances in medicine and those types of biological, if you will, advancements where I think Texas and Texans can create jobs through alliances and partnerships. And then beyond that, there are huge opportunities in the energy field. They have great natural resources that I think Texans can teach the Ukrainian folks how to best, if you will, extract for the ability to become energy independent, which would have huge positive implications for America and the West and our European allies and the European Union and NATO as a whole. And then lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the agricultural opportunities for Texas. I mean, the reality is the Ukraine historically has been the breadbasket of the world. And if you look at their abilities with the right level of investment, they could in fact surpass the United States and become the leading, if you will, net exporter of grain in the world, which is a huge opportunity, a huge tool for economic prosperity, as well as peace in the world and the region. And so those are the kind of opportunities at a macro level that exist for Texans, and why I've been passionate for a long time about fostering closer economic ties between Texas and the Ukraine. And lastly, the thing that was so important to me beyond the economic opportunities in my last trip to the Ukraine was really trying to help address the challenge of these 1.3 million refugees. Because of Putin's aggression, you now have 1.3 million refugees that have been displaced from the eastern cities of Donetsk, all across the eastern regions of the country. And that's why I think at home here in the United States and Texas, people have to be aware of this problem that the aggression of Putin has caused, and that we've got a huge humanitarian problem in addition to the huge economic opportunities. We as people of faith, we as the United States and the people of Texas need to assist, in my mind, the people of Ukraine in this time of struggle as an emerging democracy, to make certain that they enter, if you will, fully what I refer to as the coalition of free market nations and democratic countries, and make the most of this incredible country and its promise.
Well, thank you. That explains a lot. I mean, a lot of people don't realize very much about the Ukraine, so it's good to know that you can open that up. I'm going to wrap this up because these videos are generally quite short, but I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I want to again thank you, Representative Parker, for being here and for all the work you do to improve the lives of Texans.
Well, it's a privilege. Thank you so much for having me, Bob. Thank you for providing this forum for me to be able to visit with our constituents, and my door is always open to anyone who wants to talk about these issues anytime. So thank you so very much.
And thank you for watching.